What is up, party people? This is the introductory video for this channel. It's not the first video of this channel. Uh that title is earned by the Elden Ring video I recently posted earlier today of me getting absolutely wiped by Radahn. So, if you haven't checked that out, I'm not good at Elden Ring. But he's dead, and I'm not, so, at the end of the... Well, I did die several times in the process, but I came back and he hasn't, so... Who's the real victor? Who's getting the spoils? That would be Wild Hank. So yeah, you're looking at my screen here. You're seeing Wild Hank introduction. You're thinking, who's Wild Hank? That's actually the first question. Who is Wild Hank? It's this random guy I met at the bar. No, I am Wild Hank. This is my my government-given name, government-ratified name. First name Wild, last name Hank. Don't need to call me Mr. Wild Hank or Dr. Wild Hank. You can just say good old Wild Hank. That's the prefix title for myself. So good old Wild Hank. Yeah, who is Wild Hank? Well, we've already established he's bad at Elden Ring. Wild Hank is a techie, IT professional, and a bit of a dummy. It's early on in the video creation, I don't know, hobby here, but I think if you've watched really, even just the intro to this video, but specifically the Elden Ring one, the dummy stuff becomes clear pretty quick. So, I feel like that's a core part of this channel's identity. What does Wild Hank do? Well, Wild Hank does IT infrastructure occupationally, which ties into a little bit of the home labbing we'll talk about. Well, I guess that leads directly to the home labbing we'll be talking about. Outside of the IT infrastructure work I do occupationally, I'm a big home labber. That's what we've got over here is actually my homepage with some of the self-hosted services and stuff I'm working on, and then other stuff you can see where I don't have everything working. So, it's a fun thing about home labbing. It's kind of, there's always something to be done and in progress, but I'll definitely be dropping some home lab videos. Like, I am a big home labber. The thrust of my home lab, I think people have different, goals with that. I will ramble a little bit. Add sub-bullet point here to rate. Just got to keep the script up to date. This is not going to be a heavily scripted channel also. This is going to be a lot of me rambling and you listening or not listening. That's your right. Maybe I'll just listen. Maybe I'll come back in 10 years. This will be a vlog. No actual human being will have listened to it, but I can come back and listen to how much of a dork I was. So, all is good there. But yeah, the home labbing, the thrust of my home labbing is really about, I guess you describe it as, data sovereignty. I do not, especially in the current tech landscape, what was it? There was an article the other day. Here's an example, right? I use Image for my photo library. I'm not going to pull up Image because then you would see photos of me and my cat. And my cat has not expressly given permission to be viewed on the internet. But Image is a great example. I saw an article. I'm an Android user. I saw an article the other day that Google was piloting or starting an opt-out or opt-in program for Gemini to scan your photo library to be able to better generate images or yada yada yada. And I know there's already a degree of scanning occurring in there, right? That's not new. But the fact that it was going to be used for the model, I think it was going to be taking that data if you opted in. I think right now it's an opt-in program. But those are the kind of slippery slopes where they become opt-out programs. You got to know about it. And then if you, I do not like the trajectory of my data being used to train AI models. I'm not an AI tinfoil hat person. I use it at work, by virtue of being, one, in technology, and two, that is the direction of leadership in a lot of places these days. And, if the man who signs my paychecks tells me to, get with the program and use AI and build business cases for it and do whatever, all right, go and get it done. But generally, yeah, I am not, I think there's more regulation behind the sandwiches you buy at a shawarma truck than there is in the current, AI industry. And I think that's, something to be mindful of. So, I'm gonna not be on a tower and talk, this channel is not gonna be political. This channel is not gonna be, my takes on there's gonna be technology takes. The only places that will venture into things that might be related to public policy or like actual different ideologies or whatever it is, it's gonna be through the lens of technology. I'm not gonna touch any of that other stuff. But either way, back to like the initial point of this. I saw that article about Google scraping data, and I was like, well, I've got all my photos in Google Photos. I don't like that, so I'm gonna set up Image. So I've got this running on my NAS. This is the widget for my NAS up here, so you can kind of see big media. I've got 13 terabytes here of, this is just for my media server that's served up on Jellyfin. You can see I've got a lot of movies and series episodes here. It also set up on Plex, but I'm going to be spinning down the Plex server. And then on this media drive, it's got, it's all over 7 usable terabytes. That's, where this lives. And so now I've got, from my phone, the Image app, I use Tailscale so I can hit my network remotely anywhere. So this is not exposed to the internet, but again, by virtue of Tailscale, which is a company that, and the product is too darn good. Like, as much as I want to be entirely in control of my setup, there's a degree of trust I give to Tailscale to facilitate the connection to my home network. But it is just the value add of that product. It's too good. And what it allows me to do is basically all of the services I run are contained at home. Nothing is served up externally. Nothing is accessible from the outside world. What Tailscale does is it facilitates a WireGuard VPN connection. So I'm able to just turn that on my phone. I'm now on a VPN connection to my home network, and they can access these resources. The same way that if you use a business VPN at work, like, if you're not able to access whatever on-prem stuff you have, you can use a VPN to do that. So that's what Tailscale facilitates. So these are all things I'm probably going to do deeper dives on, because frankly, the more I talk about them, the more I'm like I know Tailscale gets gassed up in a lot of the home lab community. I think, again, some people like to be completely in control of their stuff and like set up probably their own custom WireGuard VPN or OpenVPN or something like that. But that's a little much for me and my purposes. And like I'm already marching in the right direction. So who knows if that's a project I take up in the future. But for now, big fan of Tailscale. So either way, Image, I'm able to access it remotely, backup files, backup photos, if I'm on the go through Tailscale. And yeah, that's like why I set it up. So now I've got my entire photo library. You can see, I don't know how this compares to some folks. I'm not a huge photo taking person, but I've got a basic, camera. I've done some, take photographs and, trips and, be artsy around town, go to the local cafe, grab a photo of a muffin, try to attract the local barista. Not actually. I also am in a committed relationship, so I'm not attracting any baristas. But yeah, you get it. So, so like that's really the thrust of a lot of the home labbing, right? And then there's some things that are just helpful. Like, I don't want to jump into too much here, because you can see my life in some of this stuff, so that's why we'll curate home lab videos, and we're just seeing a surface level thing here. But the one thing I will show you related to home labbing before I kind of get on to the other stuff is this is the network diagram I have. So this is a plug for Home Label, which is a recently dropped product, which I will plug this guy Poser. I'm not even gonna Poser. Poser. I don't know. Either way, I found this recently on, I don't know if it's a Reddit post or something, and I was like, oh, this looks cool, and then found out he just recently launched this. You can see it's pretty young. But he seems to be actively maintaining it. I really dig it. It'll scan your network. You can give it IP ranges to scan, and as long as you can see those IP ranges, it'll then pop up a bunch of devices, so you can add stuff manually or add it through here, and then you can organize it. It's still early goings. Like, it's the grid snapping is not, incredible, and there's definitely some quality of life features I'd love to see, but I absolutely love this because I can then pop in here. I'm getting live pings on some of these things. I can pop in and say, oh, I want to access, this Docker, I can jump to it. And it just gives me a good logical diagram if I'm like, yeah, so how is this network? I got VLAN 30 going to the private Proxmox server, and VLAN 20 going to the public. So this has turned into more of a home lab video than I intended. You get me rambling on this stuff. I'm going to ramble. And I don't know if you guys caught it. It says to ramble. I don't know who added that, but I'm just following instructions here, man. So yeah, that's all I really got on this front. I will do deeper dives into my Proxmox servers, the projects I have going on, the value add applications that I've been using, you know, some of the stuff that's just kind of fun. You know, maybe it's not actually providing immense value, it's just fun to screw around with, which is plenty of home life stuff like that. But yeah, so closing it out, I really like the idea of hosting a lot of my own data, and that it comes with risks, right? My apartment floods, you know, like I need to have data redundancy strategies, disaster recovery strategies for a lot of the stuff, and that's stuff that I'm working on and bouncing around different ideas for, you know, like these are mirrored drives, so there's two for every, right, for this pool, big media pool right here, there's actually two 20 terabyte, or I think they're two 22 terabyte platter drives. For this, so it's mirrored, so they scrub and do stuff, but I'm not, again, these are all things that I kind of need to, each of these topics I could do a little bit more in-depth learning on, but that's the great thing about home labbing, is it's a great way to learn about technology, and yeah, you know, that's what I've been doing that for near a decade now, and it went from having a pile of really crappy nooks and cables in the corner of my office or room to having like a 12U server rack sitting next to my desk with all sorts of, you know, nice, you know, pleasant cabling, and then some also maybe not so nice pleasant cabling that I need to work on that we're not going to talk about. But yeah. All right, that's enough on the home labbing. There will be more to come on that front. Yeah, and I don't need to talk, I'm not going to talk much about work or anything here. Again, I'm going to, you know, kind of stay, we'll write it on the channel. If you watched my first video, again, even though this is the introduction, it's not the first video. If you watched my first video, I did mention my cat, Mischief. He is a little scamp. He is, you know, I don't know, 8 months old at this point. Found him, he was a stray. Actually found him at work as a stray, and I had enough. I had not gotten a cat prior to that. I do love cats, live with cats. So, and I could pull up image in another window and then serve up a photo of the cat, which I might do that real quick. Can I just give me another home page in a new window? I'm using Zen browser here. Because, I don't know, because I like it. And where is a good photo of the tiny cat? I can find one in his bed, because that's where there might be a camera trained on. I don't know. Yeah, that's good. This does not expose too much of my apartment. Because again, I have a kind of privacy-oriented... If you zoomed in way in the back, maybe you could read those files that are shown here, but, you know, that would be... That'd be pretty impressive if you were able to do that. So here's the cat. Oh, wait. Look at that little man. Look at him just being a little dude. He's got a little desk sits on the, or a little bed sits on my desk. So I'm gonna get a camera, train it on him, and then he'll be the little, you know, you'll get a little box of Mischief in the corner of the screen whenever he chooses to show his face, which is, he sleeps there pretty brief. But yeah, I found him at work on October 31st on Halloween, hence the name Mischief. And yeah, he lives up to the name. He's a good little fellow. So, but yeah, so, you know, who knows? Maybe some cat. There's not really gonna be cat content outside of like him being, you know, the face of the channel. He still needs to sign his terms agreement. He's asking for a large cut of ad revenue, which, like, if he's not generating and editing these videos, then he's really just the, like, but he's the face of it. I get it, right? I need like a good mascot. I need a good. So I'll definitely keep folks posted on how the negotiations go. He's got a tough agent, but yeah, we'll get to the bottom of it. What does Wild Hank do? He eats. Yeah, I'm not gonna do food reviews on here. I don't eat at my desk. You're not gonna hear me crunching. I just threw this in because, man, I love food and I live in a great food city. So, that's just more about me. You're just learning things on the go. That's not relevant to the channel at all. So what is relevant to the channel? What is gonna be on Wild Hank's channel? Well, I'm gonna start a game development journey. So what is that gonna look like? It's gonna look like a dough. It's gonna look like 2D. I don't know why that 2 looks so weird. There's some weird number theming going on in LibreOffice here. I'm not gonna add anything else. Yeah, it's gonna be focused on Godot here, right? So that is the my engine of choice. Why is that my engine of choice? Well, if you follow the Home Lab community and some of the stuff I was already talking about, free open source software, man. Free open source software. Any free open source project I can support that is in my interests, I'll always take over private or whatever the range of services or apps might be. There's a few exceptions. You see UTrack in here, right? It's free, it's self-hosted, but it's not open source, right? That's from JetBrains, I think. So like, there's, I've got some flexibility there. It's not a hard and fast rule, but it's my general preference. And Godot seems awesome. It's picking up a lot of steam. They're doing the support for it seems great. Roadmap seems solid. And I frankly, as like a new I am technical enough that like the concepts make sense. I've never been a good programmer. I don't know if I ever will be a good programmer. I am let's go back to note 1 here, IT infrastructure. I'm not a software engineer. I'm not someone who spends his day, in an ID and has fun with that. Like I did 1 year of computer science in college and I said, nope, I hate programming. So and then I bounced out and did a bunch of other things and still ended up in IT infrastructure. But yeah, so either way, all that to say, GD scripts, right? I'm not going to be going and writing games in like C# or something, or C++, whatever people use. So Godot's perfect. GD script, Python-esque object-oriented language that's like, seems super easy to pick up and like perfect for someone who is technical enough to be like, I've took Python classes, like I've done that stuff before. I've got a rudimentary understanding of object-oriented programming. Like, it'll still be a challenge, but it makes sense. It aligns with my interest and skill sets. And the rest of the Godot engine seems really solid. Like, again, I've not done too much with it, but hey, I've seen the Brackeys video, watched a bunch of stuff online. And yeah, I'm gonna actually add YouTube inspirations here because, we gotta know who are our heroes. Just because I mentioned Brackeys, and I actually don't know much about Brackeys, but that just made me think of that. So yeah, Godot will be the engine of choice, and I think I'm gonna try and post devlogs. I think posting on here might be a method of accountability for me, so I don't get lost in the ADHD sauce of just picking up a new, thing every day. I mean, I just decided yesterday to start posting content on YouTube. This is a very new idea, but it just kind of felt, it just kind of pulled me, and I don't have any, I guess what are Wild Hank's goals? This is another one that we should talk about. So with the channel and in general. So you know where I'm coming from. If I'm trying, am I trying to fleece your pockets? Am I trying to pour honey in your ears? Or am I just trying to hang, just trying to chillax, We'll talk about that. No, so yeah, that's all I got out on the game dev front. Hopefully more to come on that. I really do want to dive in and dig in. It's daunting. I'm not a good artist. I'm creative. I've always been a creative writer, and I enjoy storytelling, and I enjoy the act of creation. It's just the thing. Gonna have to learn pixel art or use pre-generated open license assets. So we'll go down that journey together. We'll see what comes of it. Being open-minded. Gaming, this logically, makes sense. The channel's first video was an Elden Ring playthrough. I'm a big gamer. I kind of live at my computer, which is not good for my back or probably my cardiovascular system. At work, at least I actually get decent activity at work. There's a lot of physical infrastructure I'm out at, moving around. But my desk at home is where I do a lot. If I'm doing home labbing and doing work here and doing gaming, I live at the desk a little bit. But yeah, big into games. What kind of games is Wild Hank into? Wild Hank is into pretty much open world RPGs and crafting survival games. You see some similar themes between those two. So what are some of Wild Hank's favorite games? And I know you're just listening to me, and there's really nothing on the screen. So what I don't want to do though is pull up. I don't know the right way to. You know what? We'll do some web browser activity. Witcher 3, one of Wild Hank's favorite games, absolute gem. Really excited for the launch here of this new expansion that's coming. They know what they're doing at CDPR. So big fan of Witcher 3. Metro Exodus, really to the Metro game series, is just a real gem. These games, and of course here's this these games are just such a treat. Absolutely love them. Really hyped for the 4th entry. This is definitely some stuff I'll do gaming content for. KCD 2, another one that I am really loving. We'll definitely be probably dropping content for that. And then who knew? Like Crusader Kings is a fun one, you know, that I'm a fan of. I love the Shadow of Mordor series. These games are just absolute. Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War absolutely slap. Killer. Super hype on Black Flag Resync coming out. Like, this is gonna be so good. Am I allowed to show? No, I'm allowed to show web results, right? Is this copyright? Is this gonna be flagged? It's a public internet search and I'm narrating it, so I think this is fine because I'm not showing footage. This is also gonna be a theme. I don't know how YouTube works, so we'll see if this gets flagged. But I think narrating and showing public web results is not copy, because I'm not, like, using their footage and their content. These are just web results. So I think that's fine. You can tell me in the comments if that's not fine. If there's anyone who actually watches this. But yeah, and then outside of gaming, we kind of already talked home labbing. I don't need to really go into that anymore. And then general yapping. I think if you've gotten anything from this video, I know how to talk. I can talk and talk and talk. I think it's one thing that made me realize the YouTube path would be, you know, doable. Is like I just sit here and talk to myself anyway. So if I'm just recording that, doing what I'm doing, talking to myself, upload it, you know, maybe a few people find it interesting, you know, or it's just a vlog and like I mentioned, an accountability mechanism where I'm like, hey, you know, I started this project, got these videos out, I'm gonna finish it, gosh darn it. Dag nabbit, you know? So, but yeah, and who knows what else? I might generally yap, like if there's tech news, like I might dip into that a little bit, just give my 2 cents on stuff. You know, who knows what goes on in that direction. You know, I'm kind of just figuring it out as I go along and kind of an organic, not haphazard, just, you know, like, hey, let's see what sticks, what feels right. And I think ultimately, what else is going to be on Wild Hank's channel? Positivity. That's what's going to be on Wild Hank's channel. And I'm gonna do a little boom right there. Look at that. Look at that. That doesn't make as much sense. Maybe I do it like this. Maybe that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, like, and I'll talk about this. Will kind of logically flow into the YouTube inspirations, man. Like, there's so much negativity on the internet, and I feel like a broken record saying that, but also at the same time, like, you know, it's the way of the world right now. You know, Twitter is a cesspool. Like, you've got just so much inflammatory content out there. You know, just people being angry and people giving some attitude, you know, dropping some sass when it's like, hey man, we could just be chill. We could just get along, you know? We don't need to have our worst impulses amplified, you know, in YouTube comments and stuff like that. So I think, yeah, like, I want to bring positivity to the stuff that I put on here. And primary YouTube inspiration, Mr. Maddie. Can I just go on YouTube? I think this is logged into my Wild Hank account. If I could spell, good lord. Good lord, good lord, good lord. Yeah, so this is my Wild Hank account. I think it's fine to browse YouTube in a YouTube video, I would imagine. I don't know. Yeah, this guy, I love him to death. Again, one, because he covers a lot of my interests. He's also super into open world RPGs and gaming and tech, games industry, you know, leaks on Bethesda and all this and that and the other thing. So I'm a big fan of his content, but really, like, it's also just the positivity that he brings. And, like, he's got his retro channel too. But no, I just feel like I'm, like, advertising for him when he doesn't obviously need advertising because he runs a massively successful channel and I am just a random dude. But who knows? Maybe there is some eventuality on a 10-year timeline where Mr. Maddie stumbles upon one of my videos and knows, like, man, you know, his positivity reaches people. And I just want to gas him up for that. That's enough lathering on the, you know, the lube of love right there. But I'll just say, like, this is an inspiration of, like, just put out positive content, do stuff you're interested in, no expectation. I mean, obviously he's making it big, but no expectation on my end of, like, making a dime off of this or doing anything. I think it's just putting stuff out there. Which is honestly not really how I normally am, but there's a degree of anonymity, if I could speak. Degree of anonymity here, and, you know, obviously if it were to, in some hypothetical universe where the channel does make it big, you know, people in my world might know that I do this, but I'm not in it for anything like that, and generally like to be anonymous and just kind of, you know, I've got thoughts and ideas and smiles to share. So, you know, put them out on the internet, and maybe that'll just be, you know, 0.0000001% more net positive content out there, right? Right. One other person I've been watching recently to shout out is Juniper Dev, kind of inspiring me on the game dev journey a little bit. Dig her content. Some of the funny stuff. I mean, just a lot of random stuff, but it's this. I don't know where it is. Oh, there we go. The unethical economy of Hollow Knight. Like going deep diving.
Hey guys,
no, I can't show. Am I allowed to show videos? I don't know how YouTube works. I'm gonna get a button that says that you're gonna be very sick and tired of me hearing that. I don't think I'm allowed to. Am I allowed to play other people's YouTube videos? I don't want to like get a copyright strike or something. But either way, no. I think her content is awesome, and she does some cool stuff that inspiring me on the game development journey. Outside of that, Moist Critical, funny guy. I like listening to his content, and I don't really have too many other people that I just like, follow. So I'll leave it there for YouTube inspirations. But I think it's good to know where I'm coming from. And, maybe I fall off and stop watching these guys, and then in 10 years I come back to my intro video, and I'm like, oh, I should see what they're up to, and you never know. I first heard Moist Critical, like, freaking 15 years ago or something. What, even more than that. I don't know. It was when QWOP was a thing. Which, if you know what QWOP is, if you're younger watching this video, you probably would not be. QWOP is this hilarious keyboard physics, running game that was just an absolute. It was good bad. Like, it was not a great game, but at the same time, it was a great game because it got a lot of people. You'd want to keep doing it. There was an addicting, like, man, I can make this better. But it was just it was clunky and bad classic game. But I remember listening to Moist Critical do a QWOP video way back when, and he has such a distinctive voice. Charlie does, right? And I heard an Instagram reel over a decade later in the last few years, and I was like, man, that voice, that sounds just like the guy from way back in the day when I was watching random YouTube videos. And I pulled him up. I was like, oh my god, it is the same guy. So that's like, I don't know. But yeah, I kind of touched on it there. What else you know about Wild Hank with the goals of the channel? Again, just doing my thing. No external goals, no money goals, no exposure goals, no building a brand goals. Right, if I do game development, this will be a platform for me to if I actually release something, it'll be the platform to probably advertise it. Wild Hank brings to you Fishing Academy 5. Be a professional fisherman on the Gulf Coast and reel in that marlin. I'm not a fisherman. I don't know where that idea came from, but who knows what the games will be. I've got a couple concepts rolling around in my head, but I know they're all more ambitious than anything that I could create right now, so we're gonna figure that out too. Yeah, and then what else should you know about Wild Hank? This just says to ramble. I think I've done an adequate job rambling up to this point. Yeah. I think if I'll close it out with anything, I might have to drop like a dad joke. Actually, that's a good one. Dorky humor. That's what you need to know about Wild Hank. Is the dorky humor. So I'll leave you. I'm not gonna leave you with a quick one-liner. This is what I'll leave you with. So which one am I gonna do? So there's a teacher taking a class of kids on a field trip. They're going to a local, kind of large, old farm. It has a lot of history tied to it. There's some big barns there. They've got some crops and some animals. They've got a cemetery nearby where they've had generations of farmers and some of the local community laid to rest. It's a bit of an institution. So they're going, and actually, let me pull up, Big Farm. That's okay. Apparently, Big Farm is a game. That's everything's a game. I don't want the actual game Big Farm. I just want a large. All right, I'm gonna say, large Texas farm. There we go. All right, booyah. Oh yeah, am I allowed to show this? I don't know what I'm allowed to show. Either way, can I zoom in on this? I'm sure there's a way. Do I shift in and out? I don't know. Yeah. Either way, we're gonna leave it here. This gives you enough to work with. You guys have imaginations. So this teacher's taking this class field trip to this big farm. Where they, like I mentioned, barns, animals, crops, cemetery. They're walking around. The farmer, the rancher's showing them around. This is where you keep the goats. This is where down there those fields where we grow the corn. And they're walking by the cemetery, and all of a sudden the ground starts to rumble. It's shaking. There's tremors. The kids are like, "What is going on?" The teacher's like, "What?" Yeah, also confused, and the farmer's like, "I've never seen this before. Like we don't get earthquakes out here. Like I don't know what this is." And all of a sudden, out of the ground pops this coffin, flies straight up and is hovering above the ground, and slowly starts advancing on the teacher and the rancher and the children. And they start freaking out. The teacher gets everyone together and says, "Stay with me. Don't run away. We're gonna go hide in the barn." And so the rancher and the teacher gonna get all the kids together. They run to the barn, close the barn doors, kind of back up against this old barn's wall. And they kind of wait. They don't hear anything, and then they hear a rumble, and it gets louder and louder, and then they hear a bang, 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 and on the door again a bang, 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 and then finally a last bang, bang, and boom, the door blasts open, and the coffin is there, floating, advancing on them ominously. And the rancher and the teacher, they don't know what to do. They start throwing everything they can find at the coffin. They're throwing bottles off the wall. They're throwing tools. Fortunately, they didn't throw any of the kids, but they're throwing everything they have to try and stop this coffin. And finally, they're down to like the last bottle. The teacher grabs this final bottle off the wall, says a quick prayer, throws it at the coffin, and poof, the coffin just disappears. Everyone is shocked. It just burst into smoke, disappeared. The teachers, everyone is, like I said, in shock. The teacher says, "What was that bottle?" And the rancher goes up and picks up the label off the ground. He said, "Vicks Vapor Rub stops the coffin." Alrighty, folks. I'll catch you on the next one.